right, my first grade art friends. So in your packet that you got a couple weeks ago, I want you to pull out, there should be a little packet that has a yellow piece of paper, a black piece of paper, and then a bunch of colored pieces of paper. And we are going to be using part of this today. So this is something that you'll want to pull out and have handy. Another thing that you're going to want to have is just a piece of regular copy paper from the printer. And what we're going to do with this at first is that we are going to practice. And what I want you to think about is, I want us to think about the basic shape of just a simple leaf. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be practicing drawing curved lines. And I also want us to think about varying the size of the curves that we draw, because then that in turn will vary the size of the leaves that we draw. So just to kind of warm up, we just kind of want to move our arms like kind of in a nice arc motion, right? And so to start off, you're just going to think about, all right, I'm just going to draw a curve. So just draw a curve. And then what we're going to do is, after we draw the curve this way, then we are going to start at the end where we just drew that curve, and we're going to draw another curve. Now, I want you to do it nice and loosely, and if at first it's sloppy and the lines don't match up, that's okay. Just kind of practice going this way, and then practice going that way. Practice going this way, practice going that way, just in little forms. And then even think about, so if I just go straight across, right, that gives me a curve. But what if I moved my hand up and then back? Ooh, that gives me a bigger curve, so that when I go like this, oh wow, the leaf is a much different shape, depending on if I go up and down or if I just kind of go from left to right, just slightly. And if I just went from left to right with no movement, oh my gosh, I just get a straight line. So just kind of play around with some of the different movements, and your paper may just really look like a bunch of scribble as you just practice and get line things going. And try big arcs. Try teeny arcs, just little bitty arcs. Try again, like I said, going in different motions. All right, so I'm going to give you a minute to practice that, and then I will tell you what the next step is. Okay, now what we're going to do is, after you have practiced your on this side, and then I flipped it over, and then I did a little bit more less scribbly practice. I was a little bit more I did my lines a little bit slower, and I practiced some more curves. So now I just practice curve, and I practiced curves, maybe curving this way, right? Maybe it's easier sometimes to do it like this and like that, and I practice going up and down, and I got a different shape, and then I practiced kind of just going side to side, and I got a different shape. After you feel comfortable with the shapes, and you might say, Mrs. Herbay, why do you want us to draw a variety of shapes and sizes? Well, one of the things that makes art interesting is when you have some contrast in your art. And so if all of the leaves were the same shape or the same size, it would not be as interesting to look at. So that's kind of why I wanted us to practice that. After you feel good practicing, what you're going to do is you're going to get out the little packet of colored rectangles that were paper clipped to this little packet. The yellow paper and the black paper we're going to set aside. We're not going to need that this week, so just put that aside for right now. And I want you to get out the colors and kind of take a look. So we have a burgundy color, which is sometimes a color we see in the leaves. I have a yellow color. I have green, which obviously is the color before the leaves start to change. I have red. I have sort of a light green. I have a pink, which sometimes you can find some pink in when leaves change color. I have orange, and I have blue. You might say, Mrs. Herbay, I've never seen blue in a fall leaf before. And no, you haven't. But I just thought it might be fun to throw in a color just because maybe there's blue leaves in our imagination. All right? So then what you're going to do with these colorful rectangles is you're going to draw some leaves onto these shapes. So just like you did before, you can probably fit 2 or 3 per rectangle. Just kind of practice and draw. So I'm going to draw a leaf there. I might draw a wider leaf there. And then maybe I'm going to put a little tiny leaf here, like that. So I did that. And on each rectangle, you're just going to simply draw different sized leaves. And they can be long and thin. They can be shorter and wider. You're just going to go ahead, do that for each rectangle that you have in your packet. And after you finish that, I will show you what the next step is. All right, guys, now after you have finished drawing leaves on all of the different colored rectangles, can you guess what the next step is? Yes, we are going to practice cutting these out. And so you're like, wow, Mrs. Herbay, that's a lot of leaves, but trust me, we're going to need them and it's going to be fun. So what you're going to do is you're going to grab your scissors. Now, some of you are really good at scissor cutting and some of you might need a little bit of a practice. So for my remote friends, if you remember, we always want to hold our scissors even with our tummy, and we want to keep them pointing forward. And all their scissors do is open and close and open and close. And our left hand is kind of like the driver of the paper and of the car that the scissors going to cut. So what you're going to do is just grab one of your pieces and you'll just get started. And then as your scissors aren't moving, my scissors aren't going anywhere, but it's my left hand that is guiding my paper around. And then voila, I just cut this one piece out. So then what I'm going to do is then same thing, I'm just going around. And notice my scissors. My scissors aren't going every which way. My scissors are staying forward, and it's the left hand that is driving the bus. So even for a little one, I'm just going to open, and I'm turning my paper. And almost sometimes it helps, instead of making big chomps when you're cutting a curve, if you just make a little chomp. So there, I cut that loose, and then if you notice, I have the paper further back into the mouth of the scissor, and then I'm just closing the scissor a little bit. So I'm opening and closing the scissor a little bit, but I'm not chomping it closed the whole way. There's my next one. I'll do a couple more for you, and then what you're going to do on your own is practice cutting out these leaves. Now the goal is to cut so that your curves are nice and smooth. Sometimes what happens when friends are new to cutting, when they get some jaggy edges, and that's okay, because are leaves totally perfect around the edges? No, they do have jaggy edges. So just do your best, and you will probably find that as the more you cut, the easier it will get. If your little hand gets tired, maybe put this aside and come back to it at another time. Because sometimes when you're not used to using scissors, your little fingers and your hands get tired. So again, couple pointers, scissors always pointing forward, put the paper sort of towards the back of the scissor, and then just open and close, little movements, scissors are faced forward, and paper is just being turned with our left hand. Now if you're left-handed, you will do the exact same thing, but you will do it with the opposite hand. Your left hand will be cutting and your right hand will be guiding the paper. But I have to say that, like anything, the more you practice, the better you get. And at first when you start, it's very difficult. So your goal for this week is to cut out all of the leaves that you drew onto your colored rectangles. And our friends at school will be doing the same thing. Now, when you finish cutting out all of the leaves, what you will do is you will grab your paper from before, your yellow paper and your black paper, and you have this nice paper clip here, all you're going to do is you're going to neatly and nicely stick your leaves under that paper clip and then put this away for next week. So you will stay tuned for part 2. Okay? So can't wait to see how these turn out.